Welcome to the FB page of the Eternal Quest. Good evening, everyone. I am Shahana Shamasiru, and today we have a special guest, Miss Geeta Ramanujam. Geeta Ramanujam, besides being an internationally renowned master trainer, storyteller, educator, academician, and administrator, she is the executive director of Catalia Trust, established in 1998, which is the culmination of her vision and wisdom. Geeta is a pioneer of the storytelling movement in India. Geeta also founded Catalia's International Academy of Storytelling, the only globally recognized academy for storytelling in the world, with accredited courses affiliated to USA, Scotland, and Sweden. She has completed 135 batches of the 35 beginners courses and 27 diploma courses so far. Geeta is an fellow and has widely traveled to over 43 countries around the world and 27 states in India to establish storytelling as a tool of learning and also to set up centers. She has performed, trained, and presented papers at storytelling centers and universities, various countries, including the Azim Premji University in India. Geeta is the Indian coordinator for both the Indian Storytelling Network as well as the International Storytelling Network, RIC. Geeta has won several accolades, including the Bangalore Hero Award twice, and recently the International Award for the Best Storyteller at Bocado Storytelling Festival at Brazil, and the Governance Award in Tamil Nadu for the Best Story Narrator. She was recently mentioned and referred to by our Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji in the Man Ki Baat program for her contributions to the storytelling field. Over 85,000 people have undergone her training programs. She is also an education consultant on the board of several educational institutions and storytelling centers both in India and abroad. Geeta is the goddess of storytelling and Catalia, her heart beating for the world. Let us hear from her about her journey. Success comes to people who are determined and persistent. Tell us your journey as the director of Catalia Trust.
Yeah, it's a long story. But I'll make it short because, it's been a journey of nearly 24 years. Next year, we will be completing 25. So it's almost a silver jubilee. So it's been a long journey, but it was not without its strife and troubles. So I would probably say that, like in our movies, we have always, especially in our Bollywood films, we have this hero, heroine, and then there's an aspiration, there is a dream which we call sapna, and then after that, the dream, you have to pursue the dream, and there's struggle, and after the struggle, you have success. So this is, it's almost very dramatic and similar with Catalia's journey. So it was, with a lot of determination and all the dreams of making a beautiful, great story land, a land which would comprise of only storytellers. So that was one of my dreams, and to see if stories can be used as a medium of expression, in almost any field in the world, be it corporate, be it schools, anything. But initially, I started with education because I was a teacher and a librarian for more than 20 years. So after that, my main goal was to see how concepts in learning and education can be made better and more interesting, both for the teacher and for the children, by using the medium of storytelling. So that was my journey. I had to dig it from beneath. I was like an archaeologist because it was dead by the time it was 1996. We did have storytelling as our tradition, but just like civilizations die, all the storytelling had disappeared. So I had to revive, and I thought it needed a lot of digging. So that's what I did. And I brought this chest up with a lot of difficulty. And so I was also called the pioneer of the storytelling movement in India. And when this happened and I began to travel, I spread it to other countries, other people also joined me. And I had a lot of support from funding agencies because I started it as a trust. And I mainly wanted to reach out to the underprivileged children. And that was my main motto then. So I did use all the funds to help us establish the Cathalia Trust. And from then on, I started thinking of how I can branch it out. So I put the seed, I poured the water, I allowed the sunshine, I allowed people to put a lot of seeds to. They all helped me to grow this forest called storytelling. And that, I would say, is my journey in short.
It looks really inspiring and motivating for young people like me and young writers like me to keep on going. Thank you for sharing your story with us.
Thank you. I think one word
Stories
which I
with
can add
magic.
to this.
Sorry, tell me again.
No, I thought one word that stood out, or I would say two words, is determination is a very important word here. What we call is dridam. In Tamil, we say drid or shraddha. You have to have that faith, and see, I am going to make this work. I think that helps a lot for an organization to grow. Yeah, yeah. Yes, Sana.
That's very, very true. Whatever you are saying, it's really like from your own experience. However, you have harvested your efforts into making storytelling what it is today. And thank you for that. And as we were talking about stories, as we see stories with magic and stories enchant our spirits, can you tell us one of your favorite stories?
Yeah, because it's not only my favorite story, but it's a story that I have told most often, and a story that came to me. So I think it's like a package. And I also relate to this story very often because this story you can relate to. And this is also because I begin the story with when the Brahmand, or when the universe had nothing, so I start from nothing, and how everything, the little atoms, the clouds, and everything came together slowly. And some people said there was a bang, but some people say it was just a very silent creation. And out of it came the most powerful sun, the sun made all the planets, and the planets started finding their orbits. But my favorite planet was the Earth, because she started with giving. She allowed the elements to come in. And all these elements, just like our body is made up of elements, so also all the earth was made up of all these elements that all settled and give life, what we call as the breath. And this breath of life allowed the earth to form into mountains and landforms. And there stood a huge, big mountain. So this is one of my favorite stories. And then I go on how this mountain has a consciousness of its own, and it is made up of all the elements, and it is patient. It loves its solitude. It allows even the soft clouds to touch him in all sides. It allows the wind to whisper. It allows. There is an allowance, and it stands naked, open to this world. And then you see a story has to go on, because I always like that hope in a story. And just as there was a craving that was forming within that mountain, it was craving for something it couldn't point out. There was a beautiful bird, and the bird came and settled on the shoulder of this mountain. A tiny bird. Most of the time I say the tiniest things is what can create the biggest beautiful creation. So it was a tiny bird, it was a huge mountain. The tiny bird is the one which affects or builds the communication between the mountain and the bird, and says, "Hello, how are you? I've come from a far distance." And it's coming, taking a message all the way from the Himalayas, and says, "I'll be your friend." So there establishes the communication between the storyteller bird and the huge mountain. And so the story goes on, where the bird flies and comes back every year to tell a lot of stories. So I can expand that story, I can contract that story, I build around this story, and it has been a fantastic journey for me to tell the story very often to many different types of audience.
This is such a beautiful story, and the way that's been evolved, so innocent, and how it's nurtured around.
So I allow the mountain to cry, to build a lake around it. I allow the bird to have its own evolutionary process. So there's a lot of evolution, there's a lot of learning. There is connection to the psyche of the human being. And that's why every time I tell the story, I know people are just completely engrossed in it. And I've seen many people move to tears, some laugh, because it affects our heart. I think it's a transmission of the heart, and people are actually listening, what I call as heart listening. So they kind of just completely get engrossed, and like a movie, they watch me telling that story.
That's very
Yes.
true. And now, being an Ashoka Fellow, what was your experience, ma'am?
It was like a magic wand, a fairy who came with a magic wand, because we had some funds, we ran out of funds, And we thought, oh, that's it, Catalia cannot sustain itself. And that is when I suddenly got a call that I'm going to have, uh, someone come all the way from USA, from Washington. And I don't even know who he is, but through him, that there were going to be 3 or 4 rounds of interviews. And I didn't know for what. And finally, they were choosing one Ashoka Fellow from India at that time. And this was given to a person who had a creative idea and who can make that model replicable. So when I was awarded that, I was extremely excited and happy. It also gave me some money to sustain my organization. And only after 15 or 20 years, I met the person who was actually in charge of this, called Bill Drayton. And he's the one, I met him after 20 years to thank him for what he had done. So he sustained me for 3 years, and it was a fantastic period because it gave my first connection actually to making my trips abroad, because I was called to South Africa by another Ashoka Fellow. So the Ashoka Fellowship actually connects you with, fellows around the world. And at that time, there was not so much of digitalization like we have now, no cell phones, and just the computer had just begun. But most of it was still through phone calls, because this was way back again in 1998 to 2000. So I was very happy to receive a call from Africa, and that was my trip to South Africa, where I exchanged stories. So both the money, the kind of help, and coming at the right time, giving a hand to a person who was almost ready to drown, I would say. I am very grateful to God for that, grateful to Bill for this. And I must say it was a fantastic journey. Absolutely wonderful.
As we say, like whenever we want something, the universe is going to help us bend towards our dreams, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And also because it was more helpful to help the needy. What I did in Africa, South Africa, was also for the orphanages and for the women who were at that time affected by AIDS. And I used storytelling for women's groups to help them lift themselves up. That's what I was called for training those women. That's why I thought it's not only getting the fellowship, but also put to good use, to help others. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's really great, actually, working for the unprivileged one. Mm. And now, how would you say, how is Miss Geeta Ramanujan different as an educator and as an academician?
Okay, if I can say the definition, I would say for an academician is a person who learns, who networks, okay, and who is on the board of many organizations. So I became an Ashoka Fellow. I was on the board of some of the funding agencies of the educational institutions, where they asked me as a consultant, how do you use storytelling, and what can you give? What are the ideas that you can? So there was a lot of learning for me, both learning for me and sharing that learning. And I used to give a lot of talks, be a chief guest at many functions. So that way, as an academician, I was very happy to be able to get a status for storytelling and to be recognized as an academician and called to many places around the world again including Poland, Switzerland, Sweden, everywhere, to share my knowledge. And I think one of the reasons I started Catalia was for knowledge sharing, and naturally it means giving too. So they wanted to know how my journey was, like how you're asking me now. But as an educator, I would say I know I'm taking a different example now, because I'm just learning right now about our whole world, which is called Brahman, which is nothing. Okay, and they say Brahman is there, which is alive and pregnant with a lot of things, and there's Maya, which is called the Shakti, right? Only when the two combine do we have movement. So when Maya takes the consciousness from Brahman, that is reflected consciousness, which is not actually consciousness, because consciousness is still the best. But the reflected consciousness, when it interacts with Maya, is when we are all created. Okay, so this educator is how do we make, how do we create? So this how was the educator's role I was doing, and the academician's role was this reflective consciousness. So when I combined this, I was able to make storytellers. I was able to make people. I was able to train people in the art of storytelling. Yeah. So I think I played these two roles very consciously, knowing that there is this role which helps with the outer world, and this role which helps me in being a trainer and creating.
This is very, very interesting, actually. Thank you for sharing and thank you for making the distinction and yet comparing how both of them contribute to what you are today.
Yes.
With so many accolades, awards, and special mention by the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, can you share your experience?
You won't believe it, but I didn't know he was mentioning me, because I never got a call from anyone from the government before that. And I was very busy when one of my students, she sent me a message saying, congratulations, you're now. I said, what? I said, you've got the wrong person. I don't think it's me, Geeta Ramanujam. It must be somebody else. She said, no, I'm very sure because I'm watching you on the screen. Please switch on and see it, ma'am, because you won't be. I'm so proud to be seeing you. And I was like shocked and surprised. And then I switched on, and then I finally found it on YouTube. And I was thrilled that Modi ji had like actually sourced out and found me. And I thought, wow, what a great feeling it was. Because usually people stand, I mean, I'm just, I would say, as just one of the citizens of India. And, out of these millions and billions of people, if you had to choose and mention, I was like very, very proud of it. I was very happy. It was a lovely moment. Yeah.
I'm sure it was. It's actually being very, it's a feeling of blessing, I guess, right?
Yes. I did write a note to him after that, a long note saying how grateful and how thankful I was. And afterwards, they also took a little bit of my help for the university in a few places to share my talks.
That's very, very great.
Yes.
And now, as a TED speaker, what was the one idea that you believe um, could change the world for better?
Can you come again? Sorry.
Okay, I'm asking you as a TED speaker, what was
Ah,
that one idea that you
yeah.
believed could change the world and make it better?
Okay. So, by nature, I am a very optimistic person. I always deal with the present, and I must thank my father for this, because that is how he lived. And we have role models. So I believed in the present and not to get bogged by the past. So many people think stories are about the past, but it's the past from which you can learn to live in the present. So not looking again at the future and being anxious about it. How do I deal with this moment right now? And I thought, when I did that TED talk too, and that one thing is what I call as transformation. Because in the present, when you learn from the past, the learning brings a change. You learn because you want to change from what you are to what is better, isn't it? So that is what I meant when I said, if storytelling, if the Academy of Storytelling, if this whole course, if this whole training is not going to bring a transformation in people, then, or what we call as change for the better. Yeah. And so my stories are always quite optimistic. But even if it has deaths and revival and everything, it 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 has four pillars that I always insist on: hope, truth, belief, and a lot of love. And that was what I meant, that one statement, that change or transformation can be something fantastic. Yeah. So I always insist on that whenever I tell my students or my participants, when they are down, sometimes I tell them, no, just just look ahead, look ahead, okay, and everything will pass.
I think from
That's
what you are saying, I've learned something is that being optimistic is not only about thinking all about positive light, but it's also about accepting that there will be difficulties, but with the hope, we can definitely challenge it and then go on and move on. Thank you for teaching me
that's
that.
yeah.
You've mentioned that your father was one of your role model. Would you
Yes.
say he was also your greatest inspiration, or would you like to add about people who inspired you, things that have been your highest inspirations, and can you tell us why?
I think the person who inspired me the most is my father, because usually children learn from parents. They imitate the parents. I think we're very young, and when we look up at our parents, the way they behave, your mannerisms, your behavioral traits, your patience, your qualities, what we call as guna, yeah, all determination, the power of discrimination, peace, having a quiet mind amidst the chaos. is what I had observed in my father. Through all those difficult times that we've had, through all the nice times, he was always the same. He was able to keep up his calm, and he was able to have the power of discrimination and not show anything outwardly. I think it's a great quality. And he always told a lot of stories whenever he had to quote an example. And he's the one who egged me to read a lot. He also always told me, ask questions and stay with the question. You don't immediately have to find the answer. And the most important lesson he taught me is respond and don't react. Always. Because I found him always, he would never react. He would just be calm. And I used to ask him how he's able to be like that. And he says this reaction is very impulsive thing, you know. And he was not advisory. Let me tell you this. Why I took him as a role model is because he was not advisory. If he had been advisory, I would have just hated his tone. He hardly spoke. He just lived. He was that living example. So, anyone can be an inspiration, but he was the one who pointed the thoughts. They say the quantity of thoughts, the quality of my thoughts, the direction of my thought. And he was responsible for all these three things. So I think
I
he
think
was
it's
my
really great. Like, if I can add from my psychological perspective, I feel that he did that so that you could explore your own personality. And this is really great. Every father should learn from that. Like, allowing your daughters
absolute
to be the way she wants to be.
an
This is really
absolute
beautiful.
yeah. And no man, woman. I mean, he said, you have to be brave. You go and get it. You will. You are capable. He kept saying that.
I think that it's not only in India, but the worldwide fathers in the world should learn how to teach their children, bring them in this way. Like children can be however they want and what they want to be. Allow them to dream and be there when they want to achieve their dreams.
Exactly. All he had to say is, I'm there and I trust you. And of course, I will not uh, do away with my mother was very supportive of that. She hardly argued with him when he did this to us. She would just stand like a shadow, and because there was nothing like you are less than me. Since he was doing the job, she was supporting him. So it was wonderful to see the two of them actually stand like a very strong wall, to support whatever we are.
I think that's where you learn that lots of love and lots of love is all it takes, right?
Absolute, full of love.
Hmm. Well, travel brings new possibilities and gives wings to inspiration. Can you inspire us with your travel stories? I know that you've mentioned the story about South Africa, but any other episode of your journey that you want to tell us?
So there are two kinds of journeys I've had. Very strangely, uh, it has been both parallel. Like while I have been going for my storytelling, performances, and training, I have been to all these countries. And of course, each country has been fantastic. There was, I wouldn't say one country was bad, one was good. Everything had a different a beauty to it, a beautiful culture that I learned from. So I could say that all my trips were absolutely wonderful. But a very significant trip was two trips. And then as I did these trips, in between, I would also have a lot of personal journeys. For some reason, I was also called by ordinary people to come to certain places. And so, two of which I would probably say, one was the first time that I went to the US. I went actually for a wedding, and I wanted to go to the International Storytelling Center in Tennessee. At that time, they were having a festival. It was the 33rd year of their festival. It was very expensive for me to afford even the travel. So I managed to get some money for me to travel, and we went for the wedding. But before going to the wedding, accidents happened. So my friend and I, both of us traveled because I was mainly care of her. She had a lot of relatives in US, and that's how I was able to go along with her. So we went to Washington. Both of us are voracious readers. So we wanted to go to the Library of Congress because all the books had this seal of the Library of Congress. So it's so excited. We went to the Library of Congress, and both of us, Indians usually we chat a lot. So we were talking loudly, and we had this heap of books in our hand, and we didn't see a woman coming in the opposite direction. We knocked into her, and I felt so bad because all the books were strewn out, but thank God she didn't fall down. But she was so sweet. She picked up all the books, and she said, "I gather you're from India." And we said, "Yes." And she said, "Who are you?" And I said, "I'm a storyteller." She said, "Just come along to my cabin. I'm sure you want a cup of tea." And we were so surprised. Both of us went. And she was the director of the American Folklore Congress in Washington. And she said, "I'm sure you've come for the festival in Tennessee." And I said, "No, because I can't afford it." And she said, "Oh, I'll write to him. I know him very well. I'll just write to him and I'll put a CC to it." So there was the mail that was sent, and this was about 15 days before the festival. I forgot all about it. I thanked her a lot. I went to New Jersey for the wedding, and there the phone rang, and the person on the other side of the line was, "I'm Jimmy Neal Smith. I'm the director of the International Storytelling Center. I'm inviting you as a guest of honor to our festival." And I was shocked. I was surprised. And I said, "I have my friend." He said, "Of course, both of you can come." So we were there. And during that festival, I had the conversation with him saying, "I want to start an academy for storytelling in India, but I want a recognition from you. Only then people will, kind of respect it." He said, "It's done. You just go." I'll never forget that help. I'll never forget that journey because it had nothing to do with
I'm sorry, it got cancelled. And we were when you got the recognition.
Yes, I got the recognition.
Yeah, sorry. You may continue. Sorry, I just got a bit of a nervous thing because it
No
just
problem.
disconnected. Tell me,
Delicious.
what happened when he told you you just go and you will get your recognition?
And at that time, I was so excited. I started my academy, and then this was from 2003. And then I completed 100 batches of my certificate beginner's course. I got an affiliation from him, beautiful note. And then after 15 or 20 years, I decided I must go and thank you. So I went back to the US in 2016 to thank him. And I found in Tennessee, everywhere, there was Jimmy Neal Smith Park, Jimmy Neal Smith Town Hall, everything named after him. And I was surprised. So I went to him and I asked him, because we were walking along, I said, everything is named after you. How come? And he said, how did you get the affiliation? I said, oh, I never thought about it. Tell me, I don't even know you. And he said, I was thrice the mayor of this place. And because I was the mayor, I was able to give you the affiliation. I said, oh, wow, am I not blessed? And I thanked him profusely, saying that he had been my, like the sun giving light, and I was the prism through which this academy had to show so many storytellers. Yeah. So that was one journey that in my storytelling journey that I will never forget. Uh, and one parallel journey is I suddenly, some things happened, and my father passed away, and I told you he was a great inspiration for me. And another friend, a close friend of mine who had traveled with me to Tennessee, she also passed away. So I was a little down because two very close people had passed away. So I went to a place in Rishikesh where I was called for a workshop. And Rishikesh has Ganges, and Ganges is our holy river. So there I found a man uh, who was like a sannyasi, what we call as sadhu, and he kind of preempted. And he said, when you come back next year, I want to take you to the highest peak in the Himalayas, where the Ganges starts from. And I was not interested. So I forgot all about it. And the next year, I got another call to do a workshop right near that peak in a place called Uttarakhand. I remembered this man. He didn't have a number, he didn't have anything. So I went back to the ashram, and there he was. And he said, I told you I'll take you. And he took me, and I climbed for 18 hours. I don't know how I climbed. And I went to this place called Gomukh, which is the highest point where the Ganges begins from. I climbed all the way. I could see the beautiful cave, blue and green, with like, it was like heaven from which the Ganges just came out. And I froze, literally froze. I lost my way. And then people said, there are sadhus there. I started screaming. And there was one man who came, and he was, having long hair, and he looked actually terrible. But then he told me to hold him, and I had to trust him. And he pulled me up, took me along the peaks, and throwed me back into the path which led me back to my tent. So suddenly, when I woke up, I found that I was safe, I was saved, and I had actually come out from the mouth of hell. And I thought there was a purpose. I still remember I looked back to thank him, but the man just disappeared and never saw him after that. So I believed that there are saints, there are sadhus, there are people who are meditating in the Himalayas. And Himalayas has been very close to my heart. And strangely, after that, I traveled very often to the Himalayas. Finally, I also set up a center in the Himalayas. So I think there was a purpose. So all my travels have always had a purpose. And I have just, as you said first, accepted what came my way.
This really touched my heart, like how we are able to connect to like Himalayas, the Ganges are something very holy, very precious to Indians, and this is very, very like soul touching. Thank you for sharing this with us. Mm, we are talking about one of the most like sacred places in India. And now it also brings us to traditions. Do you believe that oral tradition adds rich value to our life, and especially via storytelling?
Very much, because I think we have such a rich treasure. Uh, when you start looking into our scriptures, when you start looking at our folk tales, because it was not documented and written, we have lost it. But if you still listen to it, it is something fantastic. And when I go deeper into this and I collect these folk tales, and when I go deep into the meanings of each one of them, like the Panchatantra, like the Hitopadesha, our scriptures, and there are scriptures which tells you about life, which tells you about your soul, what exactly is the gross body, what is this subtle body, who is Brahman, what is all this. It's so beautiful, but you need, it cannot, even if you write it in a book, you cannot keep the book to the ears. You have to listen to it. Only when you listen will you understand, for which you need a guru. Yes. So when you have a knowledge, a person of the knowledge of life telling you something, they're all stories. And they are the myths that make a lot of sense to you. And that is why I believe very strongly. I think one of the oldest civilizations is India with such a great treasure of oral stories. And I'm glad still, like, I'm still listening to them. I'm listening to the stories through a lot of people. Thank God for the YouTube. It is giving us those lectures, those discourses that I'm able to listen. So I think oral tradition, that Shruti, the listening, is the most effective form of preserving the oral tradition, of listening to it, to keep it sacred. It gives that sanctity and the sacredness. That's why I believe a lot that this oral tradition will never ever disappear. And I'm hoping that nothing, not the COVID, not anything, will destroy that oral tradition. Yes.
I don't think that even the pandemic can affect the essence of storytelling. Like, look at me. I'm very attached to my grandparents, and I used to remember my grandfather telling me stories of where he used to go, and this these are the stories which become memories to me. And I hope that one day, right now, I share them with my friends or my younger siblings. But when it comes to this storytelling is a way of like transferring the old generations, the places, the memories, the climate, and how it's gonna go. It's really, really, I'm sorry
The
for the
values.
roasted.
Yeah, and the values. You see, you don't have to tell.
Yeah,
It's all already comes when the story comes out from an elderly person. What kind of life they would have lived.
definitely. And it's really inspiring to see how generations and generations skip. We might be different, but there are some things, thanks to storytelling, which stays deeply rooted within us.
Absolutely.
Mm.
And it's like it's like a deposit of our DNA, it
Yeah,
comes through the DNA finally. Through
I
generations.
agree. Because like I suppose that I come from a family in the business and I hold no seed in me to do business. I love writing. I'm a psychology graduate. I love research. So maybe some other way, like I must be connected to one of my ancestors. So you
Correct.
have
Somebody must have
achieved
had it in
a
them.
definitely. I was telling you, you have achieved a lot, which I must say again, I've been using the word inspiring, motivating, and what you've achieved is really beautiful. And now I would ask you, what are your future plans? What do you intend to do now?
Very frankly, when I started Catalia, I had no great goals in mind. I'm not such a planner really. As I told you, I live in the present. I accept what comes my way. So I always pray for it because I feel now this is another strong belief that there are already written scripts for us, and where you have to be, what you have to do, and where you should reach is already determined. Okay, so I just have to trust nature. I throw myself into her laps so that she can take care of me, and that's how I've led my life. So I think my I'm only hoping for world peace. I'm only hoping for peace and nothing more than that. And that anything that I do should always bring flowers and beautiful things and spread the earth with peaceful flowers and not have any obstacles. So please don't give me any negative thought is what I pray for every day. So give me that satsang, what they call is the right kind of people, the right kind of environment. So naturally, when the seed gets its nutrition, it will grow either into a plant or a tree, or the tree will become the forest, right? So I'm just leaving it at that, and I'm going to continue as long as it has a plan for me. So I don't have a great future plan at all. I'm just continuing. And so I was able to convert a lot of things online when I couldn't do it offline, So accepting, I think, is the best future plan one can have.
I think I've just learned that I should take every day as a gift to me, like living in the present and looking for that one gift today has brought me. And today it really, life has given me the chance to know you. You are such a wonderful person. And it's really amazing, to have women like you, to be role models, to show us women that, we can be so much when we have it. Like, it's really good. Thank you. I mean, this week, these last weeks with everything's happening around the world, I was a bit pessimistic. But today, with you, talking to you, I feel like this has been enchanting to me. And I will take every day as a gift. Like, I used to motivate my friends, but now having someone to motivate me, like inspire me again to look at life from a different perspective,
Yeah.
it's so nice, so amazing. Do you have any message to share with our audience
During this time, isn't it? The COVID times. That's what you're saying.
during the COVID
Hello.
time, and yes, during this pandemic?
Yeah, I think, uh, as you said, what I do is, I don't want to advise because I have to live what I'm saying. So I pray to God every night, and it need not be just, it's not about Hindus, Muslims, or Christians or anything. You can thank whoever has, you just have to trust that there is someone who's going to lead your life and who knows what you need. So you just say, thank you before going to bed. And in the morning, thank you for keeping me alive today. Right? And that is one thing that we can do. The other thing is, I always compare myself to a tortoise. Okay. And we have a very nice term in Tamil called Pulan Adakkam. Pulan Adakkam means you have to draw all your senses within, like a tortoise does. It just draws inside itself. It has a hard shell. So remember, we are all very strong. We're all very strong. Okay. And we have this hard shell, and we are capable, and we can. And the most beautiful creation on the earth is not the insect, the animals, or the birds, or the trees, but the human being. The human being is the beautiful, the last evolutionary process from the amoeba to the human being, is what people say. So we have to be very thankful that we've got this birth, and that we can control our senses, we can draw ourselves within, and this is a beautiful time to reflect. Okay, so it's a godsend time to reflect, to be. You don't have to do all the time, you have to be. And being gives a great, beautiful perspective of your own self. And I remember reading Ayn Rand's book called Selfishness is a Virtue. When you know yourself, because you've never taken time to know yourself, take this time to know yourself. When you know yourself, you're not a trouble to others. At least the others don't have to worry about you. So remember, knowing yourself, this is the best time. If you haven't found time to read, this is a lovely time. You want to learn something new, this is a beautiful time. We have so many gadgets, we have so many things around us. You just have to look. You just have to. Anything that will not move you into a depressive mood, but, and we're all alone, end of the day. We're born alone, we're going to die alone. That is the reality. Okay. And everything is perishable, nothing is permanent. One day we all have to pass. Okay, even the sun has to die one day. So don't be afraid of them. Fear is something you should not be obsessed with. And the best way to do away with fear, I do, is Neti theory. Fill yourselves with love. Remove so that fear gets scared of you and runs away. Don't let fear conquer you. And instead of dying every moment, die that one time when you have to. So please live every moment and enjoy every moment. Yes, try to get good things around your way, read nice books, watch, and do everything and accept yourself. Don't put unnecessary conditions on yourself. If you get the COVID, go through it. It will pass. Yeah. So nothing you should be afraid of. The minute you get scared is when it overpowers you. So be strong, is what I tell you. Be strong. Be optimistic. And thank God for all that He has given. Yes. So for some time, let's draw our senses in like the tortoise. When the COVID passes, we can slowly come out. Yeah. Yeah.
I've
That's
learned
what I.
so much today, I've just learned that we should enjoy every emotion, whether it's fear, whether it's like
Yes.
uneasiness. Just enjoy it because, as you said, when we die, we're gonna die once. So whether it's a
Yeah.
negative feeling, a positive feeling, let's enjoy the ride.
Absolutely. And never feel guilty for anything. Don't allow people also to make you feel guilty. I always tell people that, guilty for not having done something or guilty for not having to do something. No, you're not. You're fine the way you are. Whatever happened, happened for the good, it's gone. So don't feel guilty about anything that you haven't done or that you should have. You just you are in the present now, accept it and keep going. Yeah. I think it's so important.
So this was a very lovely conversation with you. Stay safe, stay positive. Do follow our page, and we will meet you next week with another inspirational and motivational session. Keep watching us, The Eternal Quest. Thank you. This was Shahana with Geeta Ji.
Thank you so much,